Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what's right in spite of your fears. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Welcome to today's program, friend. I recently had the honor of having Joe Scheidler in studio. We were in front of the camera for about 3 hours together. And we decided we're going to make that into a multi-part series showing you this interview. He's a living legend. And in today's program, we're going to talk about how Operation Rescue got started, which I founded. We're going to talk about showing the truth and the different ways that you can share and show the truth. There's an old expression, I like the way he's doing it better than the way I'm not doing it. So over the years, Joe and I have both come under fierce criticism because of some of our tactics to try and stop the killing of babies by abortion and to end child killing. Well, today we're going to talk about courage and different ways that you can show the truth. And just remember, I like the way he is doing it better than the way I'm not doing it. Enjoy the show. The reason I'm pausing here is because abortion is murder. And there's college kids today, there's young people who have been so drained of their courage. They're not willing to call it a murder. They're not willing to have arguments with their kids in their fellow students in sociology class or any number of classes. They're not willing to focus the beam of light and truth on it because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Right.
And here we are talking about having some type of a emotional connection to Bill Baird. And yet he is an enemy. I mean, he's an enemy of the babies. He's an enemy of our position. It's hard for me to reconcile. And I don't know. What do you think about? I know that I'm babbling a little bit, but it gives me pause.
Well, Bill was a strange person. He had been interested in medicine. He didn't do the abortions. He owned the clinics, one in New York and the one in Boston. And he, again, like Tiller, was dedicated to this as a good. He saw it as a good, as an absolute good, and saw us as in the wrong, and tried to convert us. That was he really wanted us to join his forces. And Baird, actually, he was sort of a pariah to the women abortionists. He had a different approach, and he said often that he had more friends among pro-lifers than among the abortionists.
He told me that too. They didn't like him.
They didn't like him, no. Once in a while they'd give him an award of something to make him happy. But
my question to pursue this point is, talk to people about the stress of having to say abortion is murder. I'm not going to surrender this point. I'm not going to say, well, we just have different opinions and, we can be buds. And no, it's not that we have different opinions. Abortion is murder. It's not that we think it's murder. It is murder. And so I'm thinking of family stress. You come from a very devout family. You probably haven't had too many Thanksgivings where you were arguing about whether or not someone should kill their baby.
No.
I grew up with that.
Yeah.
I had an aunt who was an arch feminist, and God rest her soul. She had my cousin killed when I was a little boy. She got pregnant, and it was probably 1960, and she had her baby killed illegally, and then went on to become just a defender of child killing. So that stress, as I became prominent in the movement, would be there at family gatherings in a very significant way.
Right. Well, my family was very supportive. They thought I went a little overboard, to go full time and make this, to quit a good job with a public relations firm and take up pro-life action where there was no income, no future. But they thought I was a little bit, but they supported me totally. Bill Baird, on the other hand, had a great deal of trouble with his families, and he was disowned by his wife, who was a born-again Christian, and his children. And
he barely talked to his kids.
No, he lived alone most of the time, family ties, and he complained about that bitterly, that he was a lonely man. He would call me up and just talk about how lonely he was, and he was living by himself in an apartment above one of his abortion clinics, and his family would have nothing to do with him. And I felt genuinely sorry for Bill. And when he would call me about his health, and I would ask about him, and he had a lot of health problems too, among other things, but he stayed loyal to his position, and as far as I know, still is. I have not been in touch with him recently.
I pray he comes to Christ and finds forgiveness and absolution.
I do too. I really do.
If you own a business and would like to advertise on our program, please contact us. We are currently seen on over 130 television stations from coast to coast. We air at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then all times are local. We have a lot of reach, friend, and this is an opportunity at a great price for you to get your product or your service in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Also, if there's something that's important to you and you'd like to have a month where you just say thank you to this ministry or promote a certain ministry or a certain cause, contact us. Our rates are incredibly affordable. You'd be surprised. And you, again, can reach into hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of homes. We're currently seen possibly in over 30 million homes. So give us a call, give us an email, and we'll put a commercial up for you. Well, let's turn to some more energetic topics. What do you want to choose?
Well, I enjoyed Operation Rescue. I thought you did a wonderful job with that and brought in thousands of people into the pro-life movement. You were all over the country. You got terrific press. You brought the pro-life movement, the activist movement, out into the open, and people could not ignore it. The fact that there was a war going on, and that the ranks were growing. Tremendous coverage by hostile media that did not want to, because they couldn't help themselves. And the way we would hold our planned meetings and sort of hide out in the woods somewhere, and that got the media enticed, and they had to find us.
Well, I don't know if I've ever told you this. We can come back to some of those fun stories. You and I have a couple of fun stories with May of '88 and '87, but the planned meeting in '86, Pro-Life Action Network meeting, was in St. Louis, Missouri. John Ryan hosted it,
right.
And we did a sit-in there. Now, were you arrested that day? Wasn't it about 100 of us, didn't we all?
There were 100 of you arrested, at least. I wasn't arrested because I had to leave that to go to another pro-life activity in Louisville, Kentucky. I had to fly down there and then fly back. And during my absence, you had all the fun. But you blocked the entrances back and forth. I think there were something like 4 abortion mills in one building.
It was crazy. We had 106 of us arrested. That was the first time that the number broke 100.
Right.
Well, so at that planned meeting, John, we used to call them sit-ins, and then that was the meeting that the debate happened. Let's stop calling them sit-ins. Let's call them rescues.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting next to that man who was a brother, Michael, I forget his name, was with Paul in that order, and then he had some type of a stroke or something.
Mike Gaworski.
Yes. So he and I were sitting there, and I said, well, why don't we just, let's get to 500 people, let's get 1,000 people and do this. Let's start doing this all over the country. And he's saying, shh, be quiet. And I said, no, I think we can do this. And he said, well, where are we going to get the people? I said, I don't know. And Archie was there.
Yeah.
And Archie was all of 400 pounds. And I said, let's get 10 guys like Archie, and we'll call them the Archie Squad. Get 10 guys that are huge, 400-pound men, and sit in front of the abortion mill doors and shut them down. And Archie ended up being arrested many times. God rest his soul.
By 4 or 5 or 6 cops carrying him away.
They nicknamed him Baby Huey.
Yeah.
The police did. They came. It's all right. We got people in the studio here. You can laugh out loud if you want. So one time a policeman came up and said, please, he said, I'm begging you, would you please, because Archie, we would always put him last up against the door. So if you saw a picture of 100 or 200 or 300 pro-lifers sitting in front of the abortion mill door, it was Archie who was sitting with his back to the door. And the cop came up and said, look, we've worked with you all day. Would you please have Baby Huey walk? Because the police were carrying us. We wouldn't walk away. We forced him to carry us so that it would take up more time. And the police were so good-natured. I said, okay, sure. I said, Archie, we'll do him a favor. Just go ahead and walk away. So when Archie was the last man, he stood up and started to lumber, and the police clapped, and everyone standing by clapped.
We have this on film. We have the Archie. It was amazing. And in New York, remember, they were carrying us on stretchers.
Yes.
And there were hundreds and hundreds of arrests there. The arrests just kept going up and up and up.
Yes.
And it became a challenge to make the next rescue better than the last.
Right.
And
so I'm in the plan meeting in '86, saying, let's do this. Come on, there's something we can do. So we leave the meeting, and then fast forward a little bit over a year to '87, and in that window from '86 to '87 is when I said, okay. I then went to protest in Pensacola, where Joan Andrews was.
Right.
And I made my legendary fiery speech at the Western Sizzler, and then also out in front in the park or something, and said, let's go in, remember the Boston Tea Party, let's go into these abortion clinics and have people like Joan Andrews had done. She'd broken the abortion mill equipment.
Right.
And that's why she did hard time. And, let's be like the Boston Tea Party. And you got me aside sometime after that and said, if you go in and you do any of that kind of stuff, you're going to face felonies. Do you remember telling me this?
Yeah.
And you said, let's stay outside the building. Let's do a peaceful sit-in. We'll get the press, and we're going to get low-grade charges, misdemeanors or violations, and it'll be done and go home after a day or two in jail and not be sitting in prison like Joan Andrews. And that was good wisdom. That was very good advice. And it's really what enabled us to have a movement that blossomed on the using of the template of the civil rights movement.
Right.
Friend, this program is supported by friends like you who believe in what we are doing. We run a very tight ship. Thankfully, we are on over 130 stations across the country, having tremendous impact. We get emails every day. We get letters in the mail, not every day, but almost every day. We hear from people who love what we're doing. What people don't understand is that it's sort of expensive to produce a television show like this. It doesn't require earth-shattering funds, but it does require financial help. So I am asking you, if you enjoy this program, throw us a $10 or a $20 bill every once in a while, or even a $50 or a $100 check. You see the address there on the screen. Your gifts are not tax deductible, by the way, because we want to be able to say what we want to say regarding politics without the IRS telling us no. So if you like the program, I ask for your support. It took me 14 years to write it. 4 rewrites, countless edits. I poured my heart and soul into Dragon Slayers. At points a very inspiring and painful book to write. I encourage you to go to our website and look at the reviews that we have gotten from readers of this book, and then avail yourself. It's an allegory, And I promise you, you'll be inspired. Peaceful protest, peaceful arrest, peaceful rescue missions to save babies. We didn't do any damage to property. We didn't do any damage to any people. We were just sitting there singing and praying.
Well, when I saw, remember, I brought my son Joe down to Pensacola, and you had the meeting at the Sizzler. My cousin, Bob Rust, had gone to it, and he came back with all of your statements. And I said, this is jail time. This is long, hard jail time, and it's going to turn people off to joining the movement because most people are not willing to spend time in jail. And so that's when we had our little talk, and you saw what wisdom there was in that, to have lots of people, do it a lot, but pay the least price so that we can keep it growing.
Yes.
And I remember I have the original statement that you that you put out.
I've got to see that.
I still,
don't have it. I've got to see it.
I still have it, and you changed it right away.
Yes,
so,
that was the first and only time that went out.
But we have
it showed up. That statement that I wrote showed up at an NOW deposition. For those who don't know, the NOW, the National Organization of Women, were our arch enemies in those days.
Right.
The NAF were the abortionists, Planned Parenthood were the abortion mills, but the NOW was kind of the political mouthpiece of feminism and child killing at the time. And somehow or another, they got a hold of that document. And I'm sitting in a deposition with Jim Henderson, and they pull it out. Faye, what's her name? Not Faye Waddleton, but the other lady who was the nemesis in the Scheidler case.
Oh, yeah.
What was her name? Wasn't it Faye as well?
Yes, it was Faye, and I'll think of it in a second.
Okay, so she pulls out this document, and it's talking about doing the sit-ins, but also about taking the abortion mill equipment apart and pouring it out the window, and remember the Boston Tea Party. And she said, "What about this?" And I said, some idea I put together, but cooler heads prevailed and said this isn't a good plan, and so we scrapped it.
Right.
Never did anything like that. And I just went on, because at that point, what were they going to do?
Yeah. But I think maybe that's where I got the copy later. although
From the depositions?
Yeah,
From the NOW?
it might be, because I don't think I had it that night. I don't think Bob had the copy. But I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out. And,
so we did that event. I went home and prayed. And again, I had jail time hanging over me for some, John Ryan was such a kick in those days because he was arrested, 80 or 100 times?
Oh, yeah.
He kept going back to the same abortion mill, and he had this judge who was a devout Catholic. And every time John came before this judge, the judge threw the case out. Every time. In fact, in that 1986 plan meeting, they gave the judge an award. A sitting judge was at that plan meeting, and they gave him some type of award because he kept throwing these cases out.
Right.
So John had said, "Oh, it's nothing, it's no big deal. You go in, they slap your wrist, and it's over." Well, we went and did our peaceful sit-in, and the police cuffed us behind our backs and threw us into the paddy wagon and put us in jail. And then I got, the hammer dropped on me for like 30 days or something, which was not a lot. But, I teased John about that. Like, sure, John, they're just going to slap us on the wrist.
Yeah.
And so I'm in jail, and I'm now working on the brochure for the Operation Rescue, as it became known. That's what we decided to call it, Operation Rescue, incorporating that rescue term. And it was then in plan of 87 when we were in Atlanta that it was the first time that I publicly released the vision that I had for this massive movement. And it's in your book.
Yep. It's all here enclosed.
Yeah, let's put a tight shot of that on it for our viewers. This book was nicknamed The Bible of Pro-Life Activism, closed 99 Ways to Stop Abortion. Look at how young he was when he wrote that. It was a very imposing figure. We got to get a picture of him with his white suit on and his fedora. want to invite you to go to our website. Almost every book that I have ever written is available as a PDF online for free. We have a ton of products, training materials, tools that are available for you for free. All we ask for is that you give us your email address. That's it, so that we can stay in touch with you, and yes, from time to time, ask you to support this work. So I'm inviting you, go to the website. Now, for those of you who say, well, I don't want a PDF, I want a real book. You can get one of my books. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift you want. And if you can't afford anything, we'll send you the book for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Why are we doing all this? Because we want to change the direction of the country, and we need to raise up a fresh generation of warriors to do that. That's why we have this tool. I invite you, go to the website, see for yourself.
These were the good old days. A lot of stuff in here that people should read. Although it's made a couple of second editions and so on.
Can you find that thing about from Atlanta?
I probably could. Let me look at Atlanta. The Pro-Life Action Network planned convention in St. Louis in 1986. A field training seminar conducted on site at an abortion mill resulted for the first time in over 100 pro-lifers being arrested. The following year at the planned convention held in Atlanta, Randall mesmerized conference attendees with his vision of hundreds of pro-lifers blocking the doors of abortion clinics. For an entire year, Terry worked ceaselessly in promoting Operation Rescue, a week-long series of massive abortion clinic sit-ins to take place in New York City in the spring of 1988. Its first official Operation Rescue, held at a Manhattan doctor's office where abortions were performed as late as 24 weeks, resulted in 503 pro-lifers being arrested. The abortionist's office was closed for the entire day. By the end of the week, 4 major rescues had taken place in the New York City area, and over 1,600 arrests had been made. So it grew, and it was headline material.
Big news.
Big news.
You were arrested that first day. We were arrested together.
I was arrested with. I had Andy Schulberg there, and Tim Murphy, and you, and 500 and some others. So
Bishop Austin Vaughn,
and Mark Bavaro.
the tight end, the pro tight end for the New York Giants.
Right.
He was an all-star. Rabbi Levin.
Right.
It was something. We had 51 members of the clergy arrested that day. 10% of the whole crowd.
And that was often the case. The
Yes.
clergy were out there. There would be priests, there'd be ministers, there'd be rabbis, nuns in their habits. These were powerful days. I mean, pro-life was front page. And I think it had the consequence was many people who had just ignored the issue came to see it as a major issue in our country.
So you had this profound impact on me, saved my bacon in Pensacola with what I was recommending.
My suggestion
Yes,
that you
your
calm it down, Randy. You're going too strong.
Which it worked. So then I did the speech in Atlanta in '87, and was met with mixed reviews. It was very interesting. A dear man, Jack from Philadelphia, he said to me, "It's a great idea. It just never happened. We're never going to get people like that out." And my old friend Joe Foreman said the same thing. Mm-hmm. He came to my house for this big planning weekend, and one time he said, "I don't know why we're spending all this time arguing about little points about this. This is never going to happen." And I thought, are you crazy? Well, friend, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what's right in spite of your fears. God bless you. Be courageous.
you.